Hey everybody, welcome to Bloodstream. I'm your host, Ashley, or you might know me as Lazy Astronomer on Instagram and Twitch. I am joined today with a very special guest, Vox Sinistra, who is celebrating her 1-year anniversary on her weekly show, Strict Tempo on Twitch. Congratulations, Vox. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, hello, and thanks for being here as well. Every show, actually, Lazy Astronomer is the #1 Strict Tempo fan and moderator in the chat. And we eternally appreciate her presence.
I like the collective we. Is that you and Beans, your cat?
The collective we, I guess I'm speaking for everyone at Strict Tempo in the chat right now, throughout time. I'm like omnipotent we, I guess, just speaking for everyone. So
I think it works. I think it works.
But also, I mean, the royal we also works if we're talking about Beans. So
Beans, my absolute favorite Twitch cat, Twitch personality. I don't know. We have to give her some sort of official title. Maybe we'll get a little sighting of Beans during the interview too. So
she definitely has a personality. The star of the show, really, to be honest. I'm looking down at her right now. She's eating to my right. You can probably actually hear her in the background a little.
Let's be honest. I mean, let's be honest. People are really watching us just to see Beans. Like we're just, the humans here just making Beans happen on camera. That's the only reason why we're here.
I'm not here to judge. I'm probably here for Beans too. So
we're all here for Beans.
Priorities, get your cats in order.
All right. Well, just to give people a little more background about you and our relationship. I've had the pleasure of interviewing you back in September of 2020 for my show Bloodstream. But obviously, this is very nice to be able to interview you again for your anniversary. Now, if I did my math correctly, this will be your 54th online show since the pandemic hit, which sounds really insane to think that you've done that many shows, but it's also been that long, I guess. But definitely been a wild year, that's for sure. And for those who don't know Vox Sinistra or her show Strict Tempo, she's based in Seattle, Washington, and you were a resident DJ at Mercury at Machine Works in Seattle in real life before COVID hit. And then you transitioned your show online, which aired, original airing was April 16th of 2020. And you've hosted national and international bands and DJs all across the globe, including Argentina, Australia, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Croatia, France, Germany, Greece, Mexico, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Peru, Portugal, Russia, Scotland.
Keeps going. Okay.
Just in alphabetical order.
Wait, are you really? Awesome.
Spain, the UK, and I'm probably forgetting a few, but I mean that's pretty insane. That list of all the countries that you've represented.
That's a lot of countries. I haven't looked at it that way personally. I haven't listed them out, but I'm glad to hear it.
I'm basically like your personal biographer, so you're the unauthorized
telling me things I don't even know.
And some of the bands that you have worked with or that you've hosted are Kiss of the Whip, L'Avenir, which I'm wearing my L'Avenir shirt tonight to represent. Lunacy, Sibling, Panic Priest, Physical Wash, Child of Night, Hallows, Zeno and Oaklander, Shanghai Beach, Prophet Prison, Violator, Static Bloom, Un Hombre Solo, Rin Flowers, Passing, The Virus, Mellow Code, Lovelorn, The Stave Church, Video Cult, Sick Circle, Visceral Anatomy, Blood Handsome, Pleasure Policy, Damascus Knives, Four Horsemen, I love, Spheric, Orner Karloff, and many, many more. I mean, the list is nuts. And those are just like the bands that you've hosted. I mean, you've had probably, I don't know if you've had more DJs than bands, or maybe about the same amount.
Probably about the same. Yeah, I think I started the series just like as a way to showcase bands, and then brought in DJs as it went. I wasn't really for any particular reason, but yeah, eventually it became like not just a live showcase, but also a DJ showcase.
Yeah,
because
yeah, for sure.
My original night, like, I did more of like guest bands. So yeah, my night, by the way, actually began in real life, not online, at Mercury Machine Works in Seattle, here in Capitol Hill, Washington, where I also am. And it began July 2019 in the real life version. And it was initially just my DJ night when it began. So it was just me. And then I started bringing in guests a couple months in. I think I had like maybe two shows, I think, with live guests before everything got shut down. But yeah, there's a few bands that I've played both IRL and online strict tempo. Prophet Prison, Physical Wash. Let's see if I can think of bands. DJ Headwound has also done it. I think that's all. But yeah,
yeah. I think
there's
Sibling,
a little bit of crossover.
Yeah, and I think Sibling was going to be an in-person one, right? But then it got canceled, I think.
That wasn't going to be my night, though. That was just like a separately promoted show by me. It was at a different venue, but yeah, I did have them booked and for a show that got canceled. And I've also hosted them at the venue that I ran here pre-pandemic as well. Hollow Earth Radio, KHUH 104.9 FM, Seattle. It's like a community-run radio station here. Well, in the Central District, so close to Capitol Hill. But yeah, I hosted them there, it's a very tiny like public radio space. So it was a bit of a different vibe, more like a radio in studio that's also open to the public. I did that for a couple of years there, and also hosted a radio show there for, I don't know, almost a decade. It's on pause right now just because I have so much stuff going on with the live streams. It's been pretty wild, but yeah, I'm not currently doing a show there, but started in 2010, so about a decade.
Wow, that's, yeah, definitely crazy. I'm thinking like the first show that you did online was Kiss of the Whip, Mutant, and Dancing Plague, and of course you were spinning as well. And I'm a huge fan of all three of those. But that's how I first heard about you. I'm friends with Tristan from Kiss of the Whip. So of course he announced that he was going to be on your live stream. So of course I was going to be tuning in. So I magically have been able to have perfect attendance for your show because every week, you've just got such a stellar lineup. So obviously I'm going to be showing up. But yeah.
Yeah, I never actually thought how you found the night, but you have been there since day one, or night one rather. But yeah.
Was there any reason why
how small things get sometimes?
Right, exactly. Was there any reason why you picked those performers for your first set, or?
Sort of. I mean, okay, so I guess I started it pretty soon after everything shut down. I took like a few weeks off because I was it was just like a very hard blow for me overall. Not only just like all the shows, but everything that was going on, it was very intense, like a lot of emotions, and I just kind of like needed to chill for a few weeks and process things. But I also had to cancel a tour, my first tour ever, my first festival appearance ever. It was pretty like devastating on like a personal like DJ goals level, like all of my dreams getting crushed at once. And I also had to like shut down a community venue that was like an active support element to a lot of people in our society or our community here that are marginalized and don't have a lot of opportunities to learn about like radio production or sound production. We hosted like in-person audio workshops. People could come in and learn how to run sound. And it was in a predominantly traditionally like African-American neighborhood that's been gentrified. So I mean, there was just a lot of stuff. Like I had to shut down this really great space. I had a bunch of shows booked there. I did shows there on weekends every week. So it was a pretty active thing. And then, yeah, we started running the workshops and whatnot. But anyway, so I had to cancel like 30 events, and I had a bunch of other events at other venues I was booking. I had Twin Tribes booked. I had Ritual Veil and Sibling. I had a lot of just harsh blows, a lot of like weeks of work that went into all of that. So it was hard. But yeah, so basically I just like took a few weeks off. I know it was difficult for everyone. And then after that, it was like I got asked to do a live stream show. A former venue here was running a stream. Since then, some stuff has been revealed about the space. I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, so I did a show for them, and it got me thinking. I was like, this is a really fun format. Like, I don't really know what to expect of it. I had no idea what I was doing. The video looked terrible. It was like on my phone positioned on my mixer, like looking up at me, and beans just kept on like crawling all over the mixer during it, which really just saved it, to be honest. But it was like, oh, this is like a fun way to sustain the community and continue to be involved with music. And I thought that the chat element was really interesting, because you don't normally get to see like immediate feedback from people unless they're like drunk and like stumbling up to the DJ booth. Like, can you play, I don't know, something terrible? I'm trying to think the worst request I've ever gotten. Coheed and Cambria. When I was playing like a set of super rare 80s like Belgian new beat that I collected across the world from like ex-80s DJs on Discogs. I'm like carefully thinking about phrasing and BPMs, and this person just stumbling up like, play this early 2000s new metal. I'm like, anyway, the struggle of DJing, I guess. But I don't remember what I was talking about that. I'm just
You
really
mentioned
Coheed and Cambria.
I mean, you mentioned the chat, which is definitely an interesting point.
Yeah,
I mean,
so I really enjoy getting to interact with people on that level and kind of like get immediate feedback like that during a set, see what people are really into. Yeah, it was just, it clicked automatically. I was like, I need to do this. And this is a way that I can sustain my, I don't know, passion, I guess. Yeah, passion for booking shows and promoting and making all of the music stuff happen. And, you know, be like a good resource for everyone to have during the time where, you know, venues are shut down. So
I mean, that's definitely been something, you know, especially when live streams first started, of seeing people in the chat of just, you know, saying like, this is the most I've ever talked at a show before, you know, because like, you know, normally the music's really loud. You can't hear what people are saying. You don't want to be rude, you know, like the band or in this. And I would imagine, especially as a DJ, you're generally behind like a DJ booth. It's not super accessible for people to get to you. And really, if they're coming over to talk to you, it's probably for a request or something. So I would imagine that it's just like a very, very different experience, you know. I would imagine for not only for you, but all of your DJs and bands that you've hosted on your show too, because they're in the chat, they're talking with people, and you know, hearing everyone be like, oh, you know, love this song, or you know, whatever, you know, just like you were saying, that like instant feedback on their performance.
Yeah, it's definitely much easier to interact. And yeah, like in real life shows, everything's loud, you know, you're socially awkward, so you don't want to go up and just talk to people, but it's like, it really creates like an open door, like everyone can participate and feel comfortable in that sort of anonymous online environment. And you know, we're all probably most of us missing that real life element of human interaction, but it's a nice substitute for the meantime.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before too, where like some people in the chat had said that they're like total introverts, and going to a show isn't something that they would normally even do. So Twitch and live streams have enabled them to go to shows and like be a part of a community that they kind of felt excluded before. And I think that's, you know, all of these, after, you know, such a terrible year, basically, like there have been a lot of positives, and certainly Strict Tempo has been a positive for me.
Yay. Yeah, that's great to hear. And it's constantly just really heartwarming to get all these messages from people that tell me that my show has done a lot for them, and they look forward to it every week, and they, have a great time in the chat. And yeah, it's been awesome to have that impact on people and just be able to do that while continuing to do something that I, wanted to keep doing. So, I wasn't initially thinking it was going to be some sort of like scene saving thing, starting this live stream series, but obviously, like, it's one of many going on, so I'm not the only person doing this, but yeah, it's great to be part of that movement.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I definitely, I want to talk tech, which, might not be that exciting, but I'm curious of like what the transition was like for you, like learning how to do live streams, video editing, green screens, which we see behind you, and the infamous OBS that we always hear you talking about. What what how has that been, just like figuring out all this stuff?
Yeah, I'm constantly like dropping weird tech terms in the chat and no one knows what the hell I'm talking about. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, so I was about to go into this a second ago and then lost my train of thought. But yes, so I had no idea anything about videos when I began. Like, I didn't even know, I was like, MP4, that's the video file, right? I didn't know how to send them through email. I didn't know anything really. I didn't know what resolutions meant or none of that. Okay, so it was a very steep learning curve for me. But I had some help from some people. Steve from Technophobia showed me my first OBS crash course over like a Facebook video chat.
I heart Steve. Technophobia, definitely one of my faves.
Shout out. And Susan Subtract of Physical Wash also taught me some things about video editing and showed me where the filters were in OBS. Apparently, well, they've redesigned it a little bit to be a lot smoother for stuff like that. But when I first started, like the original version that I was working with, you kind of had to like work the system to do like video effects and whatnot. So, it was really just designed for gaming. Like, they didn't anticipate, the entire music community wanting to broadcast music with it. So
yeah, it was like March hit last year, and it was just like none of us knew what Twitch was, and it was just like all of a sudden we've like descended upon Twitch. We're like, we're taking this over now.
Yeah. Well, I hope it continues to grow and things continue to be stable with the legality of streaming. I know that's a whole other conversation, but I hope that the Twitch does not stop. I guess.
Yeah, definitely me too. Like there's so many parts of it that are so great that you're just not able to do in a real person thing. Just the accessibility.
Not even just Twitch though. Of course there's other platforms for streaming, but I think in particular Twitch offers that element of community, or at least since everyone is kind of flocked to it, the community is there. So like if you stream on like Mixcloud, there's a little bit of a different vibe. Okay, so I have like 17,000 followers on Mixcloud, but my streams on there don't give any views at all. So it's just a fully developed platform already, like that community already exists there and it has the infrastructure to make things fun. But yeah, so I basically learned how to do everything. Like that first month, it was like the week before my first stream, I was still like, kind of like, what am I doing here? And the first few streams also were just kind of like, I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind and hope that it works. Yeah, there were still a lot of questions about what would work and what wouldn't. There wasn't a guide or anything on how to do what I'm doing with it because it just wasn't a thing that anyone was doing. So I think people started to come out with like, live streaming guides for musicians, like in the first like few months of everything. But yeah, just in that very early sequence of things, it was very just like word of mouth. You had to like ask someone who was also starting streaming and just kind of like, push back ideas or like advice on how to make things smoother, how to make OBS work for it. So yeah, it was a collaborative effort in the beginning for sure, just like learning how everything worked and which settings were best and how to edit videos. Yeah, my skills with that have improved a lot over the past year. I look back at my first videos and I'm like, oh my. Hope
Yeah,
no
we
one
talked
sees
about
this
that a little
again.
bit. I mean, it's like we've all been on the journey too of like seeing everything get like more and more refined, and not that, I mean, I never thought it looked bad or terrible. I wasn't like thinking
Yes.
about those kinds of things, but it's like you're doing it every week, so it's like you are like, maybe let me change this a little bit, or let me change this, or getting a green screen, and
Yeah, just
camera
by
angles.
little.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you've
You
learned
can
from
see
streaming
the
on?
green screen behind me. I obviously have a green screen. It's right there.
Is there anything that you've learned like from streaming online that you think you might take back with you when you start doing in real life events again?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say when the real life events will start for me personally. I mean, I would love to err on the side of extreme caution with all of that. Just in general, I just don't want to be responsible for terrible things happening to anyone for any reason. So, I mean, if that means I need to hold off a bit longer on throwing real life events, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm not trying to place judgment on other people that have, started back up and sort of reduced capacity with all sorts of regulation situations. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, for me, I would just like to wait until it feels good for me. And that may be a while, but I'm also not planning on stopping the streaming. So I guess that will be a lot different for me in real life. It will be hard for me to imagine doing a real life event without streaming it now.
Yeah. Is there anything technically though that you're doing online that you would bring to an in real life event?
Well, I wasn't really doing many visuals in real life before, so now I'm all into that. I feel like it would be weird to do a set without visuals now because they feel like they enhance the vibe so much. And I have never really cared too much about it before. I guess most of the places that I was DJing wasn't really like a visuals appropriate sort of space. They did, yeah, we do have visuals at the Mercury. There's like a projection screen, and we have like all sorts of dance lights on the dance floor. But I always kind of like put on movies in the background. It was like Blade Runner.
That's like the go-to synth EDM thing. Like, yeah, let's throw a Blade
Terminator. Yeah, I use both of those actually. Terminator makes really good like EDM, like industrial techno background. Not surprising, obviously, but yeah, like the end where it's like coming out of like the fire and like falling apart, and like anyway. There was one moment during one of my nights during that scene that was like perfectly synced with one of my guest sets, and it was Terminator magic. We can edit that out. All right.
Or not, believe it in. It's funny that you mentioned Terminator because there's the scene where he goes into the like cool club, and it's called Bar Noir, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know why I think about that all the time, but I feel like if I was to do a live stream, maybe that would be the name of my my live stream, Bar Noir, just as a Terminator throwback or something.
There is a Terminator themed bar in New York and Brooklyn that I've been to, Jupiter Disco. I was actually supposed to DJ there with Andy Harriman from Syntheside as part of my tour that got canceled. Womp womp. But I visited there like 2 years before and was there on my birthday at this Terminator themed bar, drinking very nice tequila. But it exists, so you know.
Okay.
And the tequila runs free apparently. We don't have to talk about that though.
So I wanted to ask you also about the artwork that you do. You create, a digital poster essentially for your weekly shows. They have just such a good look to them, and they also look like actual posters. I mean, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them will have like the creases in it, like it's been folded up and it's like aged looking, but just every time I see one, I'm like, oh, it's strict tempo. Like there's no doubt that it's you, basically. But I'm curious about like who the designers are, and just the I guess the concept of doing a poster for each show, because it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the designer for the flyers, so I guess that would be a more appropriate question for them, like in terms of actual process. I know a little bit about how it's created. Just, there have been so many I've had, I've been curious too. But yeah, so the designers I work with, most of them are currently being made by Nick Fargo, who ran the night Cemetery Gates in Riverside, California, which was like a goth industrial night there. I'm not sure when it ended, actually. It might have been like pre-pandemic it oriented. I don't know. But yeah, so he does most of them. And I've also had some flyers made by Susan Subtract, Physical Wash. And who else? We have a couple made by User, Baraka Records out of Brazil, who has also DJ'd on the show. And I've had a few made by Nick Culp of Lunacy, who has also played on the show, and will be doing a t-shirt based on one of his flyer designs soon.
Strict tempo, merch alert, merch alert.
Merch alert. Yeah, I know I've been getting requests for merch since like, I don't know, week 2 or 3. Here I am, week 50 something. Finally getting my shit together, sorry. It's a little new for me. This was my first real night that I put together ever. And I wasn't really expecting it to get as big as it has. Like, I wasn't anticipating I would take it online for an international audience. Like, all of this is new to me. So slowly getting my merch in order. But yeah, Nick is going to do a shirt for us. And trying to think if there are other people. Oh yeah, Marco Conway has made a couple recently as well, who DJs as Sin of the Father and Hands of Providence, both guests on the show also. We're sensing a theme. I don't think Nick plays music. So he's the only flyer designer who hasn't also been on the show, but maybe he does. Sorry if you do. But not a band that I know about right now anyway. Okay. Yeah, so for those flyers though, because I think that's mostly what you're talking about, because it's the majority of them, although, we've had many, many different shows, so a few different designers. But yeah, so he does things online, like on Photoshop. This is like my perception of things. So, I didn't make them, but I was
probably more curious about like your the concept, not necessarily how they're made production wise, but I mean,
the creases,
like how much input
he does, like photocopying and like physical stuff with the flyers to produce the creases and whatnot. So there is a little bit of like real flyer action going on. But
okay,
the concept.
Do you just leave it up to them, or for design, or
sometimes I have something that I want for the flyer, like when I had like the Italo Disco Christmas special that required something unique, very specific, or I guess if it's a special theme, like my highlight show, it made sense to have me on the flyer. And Miss DJ Tuxedo Beans over here, she's laying on my bed like 10 feet away. But yeah, I mean, mostly it's completely up to them, and I don't really have much to do with the aesthetic input. I just find people whose work I enjoy and seems to fit the aesthetic that I'm building, and they just kill it every time. So thanks.
They really do. I mean, and everyone talks about it too. We were talking about in the chat recently that there needs to be like a coffee table book of all the strict tempo flyers in there, because they're so visually really cool. It's also a history of your show too, of who performed and the dates and everything. I mean, like I think it would be really cool as a it's only been 1 year, but I don't care.
Already a book. Yeah, I mean, we recently had the idea of doing prints of them also. So I guess I'll throw that out as a merch option. I don't really know how that will work yet, but yeah, if people want prints, let me know.
Yeah, yeah, because I know, and Nick Culp has done, actual flyers for actual shows and things, and he prints them, screen prints them and stuff. So, definitely a possibility. So we talked a little bit about what's next, which still unknown. I mean, Seattle hasn't, opened up yet like other places have. Well,
Yeah,
do you think
we're like even far behind other places like Portland, for example, their goth club is opening like 50% capacity or something pretty soon. And here it's like there's just like a big question mark on the opening dates of those things. Like it's just nowhere in the near future. So
will you be back at Mercury at Machine Works when things do reopen, or other spaces that are there?
I mean, it's hard to say what will happen at this point, really, to be honest. Mercury has been a little bit on like shaky ground for a while now. So I'm hoping they're going to pull through. But at this point, it's been over a year since they've been closed. So that's going to have its toll even on a really successful, like thriving business. I'm not saying that it wasn't successful, but I mean, Capitol Hill in Seattle has really expensive rent. And so I think a lot of, underground institutions are having difficulty here. Yeah, so I guess we'll see what happens. I know that the situation is not awesome there. So
yeah. So we've come to the point where we get sentimental now, which is, usually me, but I wanted to ask you, like, what is this past year? What has doing this live stream? What is it meant for you? And like, do you have any favorite moments that you can think of? I mean, there's so much, and obviously we're talking about beans.
yeah, I was like, you mean favorite beans moments, right? Those are the only moments. We're obsessed with my cat, everyone, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, right, everyone, we're talking about a cat.
Yes. The guest star of my show, which is a lovely tuxedo cat named Beans, which I feel like I should almost pull her on, but then she's going to be very upset. I'll bring her up later. But my favorite moments, well, besides all the times that I brought my cat onto the screen, which are deserve their own special shout out. There's been a lot of really great conversations in the chat. There's been a lot of really fun moments. There's been a lot of moments where I've just like laughed so hard I've fallen off my stool pretty much. So yeah, I just love how animated and fun everyone is that comes to the night. And yeah, it's a fun group of people. Everyone is really nerdy and just down to make puns about weird things. And yeah, I guess my favorite moments have mostly come from the community and just experiencing some sort of social togetherness in that way. I guess I'm getting sappy now, but yeah, and just getting to see like how much it's impacted people has been really important for me. Just like keeps me sustained and continuing to do it, because it is a lot of work to do on a weekly basis. I'm pretty much just like losing my mind constantly and have been for the past year. But I hear people like talk about how they're bored or like don't know what to do or something. I'm just like, what? I've done like 60 events this past year. But I mean, I know obviously the live streams aren't for everyone. Everyone has different accessibility to technology or want to deal with that stuff. So obviously no judgment if someone doesn't want to do online events or anything. That was supposed to be like that. But yeah, I just, it's helpful to know that people enjoy it and are getting a lot out of it. And that just drives me to continue doing it. It's fun to do on my end because I obviously enjoy DJing and putting together events and whatnot, but it is very time consuming. And then I've also been doing a lot more video editing lately. So that's like, takes me a few days really to make like a good background video If I'm compiling a bunch of different clips and whatnot, and editing each one, and then editing them all together, and then putting them into the final product. It's like a 5-step process just for that. And then you've got to like juggle all the guests and organize all the promo materials and make sure everyone's happy. It's a lot to manage, but yeah, I enjoy it, and I especially enjoy that people love it. So it drives me to just drink all the coffee and make it happen. I also work a full-time corporate job, so it's like it's my after work.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a lot. I mean, just the organizing. I mean, anyone that has worked with artists, bands, DJs, no, I mean it's like herding cats, basically. Of like trying to get material in time. I mean, there are deadlines involved. Like your show is at a certain time every week. Like, getting something last minute isn't exactly ideal, I'm sure.
Yeah, I try to keep it like somewhat relaxed so people aren't really stressed out about things, but sometimes I do get things really last minute and it, really ramps up the stress for me. But yeah, I know everyone is working with like a different set of skills really with this, and I try to do my best to be supportive, and if people have questions about how to produce something on their end, I try to answer questions. But yeah, that's also another element of the craziness, I guess, is a lot of people don't actually know how to produce these sets, so I'm kind of having to like school them on that as well.
You've gone from student to teacher now, so this is what has happened in your year-long Twitch course.
Exactly. Yeah, it's I mean, it's definitely just like a hands-on thing. You just kind of have to get in there and start doing it in order to know how. So
yeah. Well, as most of your listeners know, I am the moderator for your show, and I absolutely adore you. I absolutely adore your show. I say all the time that Thursdays are my favorite day of the week. I mean, and it's because of your show. I get to spend it with my strict tempo fam, as I call it. And I just want to take a moment and thank you for putting together such amazing programming each and every week, even through everything that has happened in this, throughout the pandemic. I mean, there's between social unrest and protest, tear gas, flashbangs.
It's been quite a year here in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, forest fires, all the smoke that you've had to deal with and everything.
The summer over here was pretty wild. In addition to all the Corona stuff, we also had very intense, police brutality protests that carried on throughout the summer. They went on much longer here than other places. Here in Portland, I think we carried on, maybe a few other cities too, but they went on here for months, and I live just a couple blocks away from the protest site, so I was in the thick of it the whole time. So we went from like tear gas in the streets like every night to like wildfire smoke, because we had all the devastating wildfire season here last year. The whole West Coast did. It was just, yeah, very strong post-apocalyptic vibe, really. Seattle was just like boarded up because as part of the protest, there was a lot of vandalism, a lot of window smashing and whatnot. So it was like you just walked around and everything was boarded up for months and just like covered in graffiti, which is, I mean, not a problem for me, but like it definitely had a strong Mad Max feel to it. Yeah, but I streamed through most of it magically somehow. I canceled a couple weeks during the beginning of the protests when things were just extremely intense here, and also so I could participate. But yeah, strict tempo just it prevails.
It's true. And I mean, I can't tell you how much your show has meant to me, and I know everyone that watches your show every week how much it means to them. Like it shows by the people that show up every week, the level of involvement in the chat and everything, the quality of the performers that you get every week. I mean, this is all a reflection of you and just what you were able to do every week. So you've really created a community, and it needs to be recognized. So thank you for doing what you do, and happy anniversary, Twitch anniversary. Is
Okay.
there anything that you want to leave the viewers with?
I guess I have a question for you.
Oh,
Turning the tables here. What is your favorite thing, or like your favorite moments, or the favorite thing that you've taken away from the show as, you know, our moderator and friend?
it's, oh man, okay. You were talking about like almost falling off your
You
chair
weren't
during some of the
expecting
chat.
this, were
The tables have turned. But I mean, there was one a couple weeks ago. I mean, like tears, like tears down my face, like laughing so hard. I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, some of the stuff is just like dumb and corny or whatever, and you know, I'm obviously contributing to that. But like everyone's so funny and like nice, and I mean, I'm a very, very sappy person, but like it literally warms my heart when I see people on there talking to each other. You have so many international bands and DJs on there, and see the entire chat be in Spanish. And I'm like, this is awesome, you know? Like, or and especially as, I mean, your shows are very long. So like as the evening goes on, you know, Europe starts to wake up. So, you know, start getting some German speakers in there and stuff. And I just think it's so cool. I mean, it's like, it's a global community. This isn't, you know, Seattle. This isn't, I live in Philadelphia, you know. But I mean, I really do look forward. I really do think of everyone as like my Thursday fam, my strict tempo fam, you know, because it is like, how's it going? Oh, how was that thing you were doing last week? What are you eating for dinner? You know, like there's always the vegan food chat that we have to talk about. So
Yeah,
but
I'm a former vegan food blogger, so in case anyone was wondering, like, why do they keep on talking about vegan food? That is part of the reason. But
like the majority of the people in the chat also, I'm vegetarian, full disclosure,
yeah,
not vegan.
not just me, but
Well,
that's funny that you brought up the international element, though. I didn't really talk about that and like the root of that, so I guess I'll just talk about that really quick. But so the radio show that I hosted for about a decade, Secret Meaning of Things, was international focused 80s underground music. So the music that I book now, it's not as like 80s inspired. Some of it is like the more like cold wave, wavy stuff, you know, but or like more industrial, post-punk. There's a wide variety of genres on my show, but or more like old school EBM industrial influence. But sorry, I'm getting really nerdy. This is the part where I just start listing off genres like maniacally. I can't stop myself.
you want me to list all those countries again? I can.
Yeah, but basically the radio show I hosted was international focus. So I did a special on different scenes in different countries from the 80s. So I did like a show on like Mexican New Wave. I did a show on like synth music from the Baltic states, and like that's like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. I did like a show completely based on the influence of African music. I did like Middle Eastern and Bollywood, like inspired Belgian new beat and like acid house mix. So I mean, I'm kind of all over the place, I guess, genre wise, but also in terms of just interest in international music, it's been like a strong interest for me pretty much my whole like musical, you know, consumption career. Like in high school, I was like downloading Bulgarian folk festival recordings and weird shit like that. So I mean, sorry, that's not weird, but like I don't like folk music anymore. But sorry. So yeah, I've just always been like really interested in different communities and just like pulling from different scenes around the world. So that's kind of where that stemmed from. And that's just reflected in my booking now that I am able to book anyone from anywhere, pretty much, like if they want to do it, you know, obviously. But yeah, the borders have been pulled down in terms of booking limitations. You know, you don't need to tour. You can just You know, I like what this artist is doing. Doesn't matter where they're based. If they want to do this, they can. So that's partially like where all that came from. And then also I've, because I've always, you know, had this international focus in my DJing, I've built an international community for my mixes for several years on Mixcloud. And really, I have more listeners at other places that I do here in Seattle. So I guess it makes sense that this international community would develop from this, because it's always been a priority for me to represent places that have been underrepresented in, you know, our general musical vernacular, or, you know, the American focus or whatnot. So,
and I love that too. I mean, I feel like,
without trying to be like culturally appropriating, you know, I'm trying to give others the platform to have their music be exposed to this audience. So I guess that's my goal with all of that. And yeah, I love that it's attracted so many people from different areas and backgrounds. And I'm just really happy about how it's all going, really. And
well,
you're
doing a super great job.
Different languages in the chat. I know I've seen other chats that have had like rules about that, like it's like English only, and I could never imagine putting that stipulation on my chat, because I want to, you know, encourage involvement from everyone. And, you know, maybe, yeah, a lot of people don't speak English, and that's totally fine. It's not a requirement in my chat ever. So if you want to speak Spanish to other people, that's totally cool with me. I don't speak any other languages besides English. You'd think that I would have picked up something through like these years of international interests, or yeah.
Well, I sit there with Google Translate, and I'll like,
oh yeah,
I'll try and have
open all the time. Don't worry, folks. Don't get too cocky. We're moderating you still. We have translators. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really had much of a problem with moderating in general. I mean, you would speak to this as well. Everyone pretty much who comes to the shows is there for good reasons, has good intentions. So yeah, love you all.
Well, thank you everyone who is watching this interview. Thank you for joining, and thanks to Vox Sinistra for being my special guest. Happy anniversary once again. If you are not already following her on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Mixcloud, YouTube, all of the things.
I'm everywhere. Watch out. Can't escape me on all the platforms.
But thank you so much. I appreciate everyone watching, and happy anniversary. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again, Lazy Astronomer. And chat. Hope you all enjoy the show tonight.
Yes. Adios. Ciao. Choose. Do all the international sign-offs. So.
Oh wait. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.